evening, everyone. Myself, Vandana, the National Youth Representative of the Wiki Water Resource Council, welcome you all on behalf of the Monday Munching Musing with Women for Water. This particular initiative has been taken up by Eco Development and Research Cell, a not-for-profit initiative of the environmental design consultants based out of Ahmedabad. This initiative has been possible with the support of Water Resource Council of the Women's Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, known as Wiki WRC, and in collaboration with W4W Foundation. Our media partner for the event is Counterview. I'm joined today with Mansi, who's the National Wiki Water Resources Council President. Welcome, Mansi. We are glad to start the conversation, namely Monday Munching Musing with Women for Water, which we are referring to as Blue Lips. For audience, this is very important to note that this particular initiative is aimed to share the worries and wisdoms by the women, for the women, and of the women in the sector. In here, we hope to learn about the water endeavours in a very regular and disciplined manner, like a masterclass, but it's going to be a candid conversation. For this candid conversation, today we are joined with Ms. Shailaja Deshpande, who's the founder of Jeevit Nadi, the Living River Foundation. Welcome, Shailaja ji, to the conversations. Just to briefly introduce for everybody, she is working in the field of environment conservation since 2011 and has worked in depth on urban river water revival through community participation. I think with this brief introduction, we are good to get started to know a little bit deeper about your works and insights, Shailaja ji. Welcome. So the first thing I think what everybody would like to know is that how did you get started into the sector? Can you take us through the journey of over the years?
Oh, yes, it's a very small journey. Before I entered into the environment, I was working professional as interior designing. And when I was doing interiors, the clients, the designing concept, when you try to execute, there is a lot of wastage of material. And that was putting me, I used to become so restless that so many tiles have been broken, so many uh, wooden things go, you just remove, if you don't like it, you do it again, build it again, and all this was really pricking me. And I had probably reached at a threshold where I was thinking that I need to do something about it. If I'm feeling restless, and I started looking around for different courses where I can join, understand the environment, what are the losses we are making, what is the impact which we are creating on this. And I came across Ecological Society, which has a very interdisciplinary, wonderful post-grad diploma course, which I did it in 2009. When you do that course, it's a awakening to you. You mean you become restless souls. You understand the environment, you understand what the issues you are going you have actually created, and you don't know the cause, or you don't know the way out. And that's where actually gradually I got into this, and slowly I started working, small environmental sectors. Thoda you try to do the field botany course, try to understand the plants. Then I also did aquadams means about the aquifers and groundwater course, to understand what is the relation between the surface water and underground water. So I kept doing all that, and then couple of us came together, alumni of Ecological Society only, and we decided that we have certain limitations. We are not able to get out of Pune city to do something, but can we do something sitting here? And when we already know that the urbans are the biggest polluters, why not start into the urban areas? And the rivers were right in front of us. The situation and the conditions of the rivers, the state of the rivers across India is the same. It's not different anyway. And that's probably was the triggering point for starting this organization. And the main focus was bringing people towards the rejuvenation.
Okay. I think this is very thoughtful of you to have put before everybody that, grasping some kind of a basic knowledge can be a good start point for many who are perhaps sensitive but don't know how to get started onto
Right.
this journey. So
Right.
this is really something worth noting for all of us here also, who are probably working in a very limited way in a limited sector.
Right.
Now, when I see your journey, whereby you are inspired by the kind of problems that you observed, and then you picked up, then this formal organization that you have started up, can you brief us a little bit more about it in terms of how this is helping women in water sector?
Yes, sure. I think once you start working or you identify the sector and the field that you wish to work with the water, then the first and foremost thing, even if we had a formal education about the ecosystems as a whole, I did not have a knowledge about the rivers.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even knew how many rivers in all in our Pune city itself we have, or we have such a natural wealth. So, starting point was we were a loose structure, like 15, 20 of us taking the vehicles, going to up to the source region along with the experts. We had visits to from the source region to the floodplain with different experts who deal with the chemistry of the water, who deal with the archaeological features of the water, who deal with the groundwater scenario, what is the connection. So all this, first 1.5 year, we literally visited each and every water resource around Pune city to understand what exactly is happening, what used to be or what should be the ideal river ecosystem, and what has it been transformed. And after 1.5 year, when we realized that what we need to understand, that where do I get my water from, how do I get it, and when I use that water, where does the water go and how does it go. So if I cover this whole journey in sort of programs, creating some verticals where each and every individual understands it, and that was probably our kickoff point. We understood what we want to convey to the people, and
Mm-hmm.
for that we had gone through that journey, and we knew that now we have to explore and express. So that's how we started doing it.
Very interesting. I think the way you have used the water cycle framework itself to devise verticals
Yeah,
upon which you could
yeah,
work on, I think
yeah.
that's very, very interesting. Now, I'm sure the way you are saying that, from gaining surface level knowledge to scholastic knowledge to actually going on the field and figuring it all out,
Right.
I'm there will be, a bit of stretch in terms of balancing the life and the demands from home. Uh,
Yes.
Share with us if you are okay to, in terms of
Yeah,
how to
yeah. Sure,
balance.
sure. Sure. Because when we started, see, everybody, there are two things why we start doing these works, because we are passionate about it. And when you're passionate about doing that thing, you try to, then there is a compartmentalization one has to do between your passion and your duties and the responsibilities. And who can do it better than the women? Women are the best managers. They know how to compartmentalize. They know the choices. They know what are the preferences one has to do. And probably that's how we started doing, creating simple forms. We created simple forms for every one of us, that let us try to jot down how many per week I can spend my hours, working hours in a week. It could be 2 hours, 4 hours. Then evaluate after 1 month or 2 months. Is it really I am putting 2 hours a week, or am I giving more, or I can give more, 4 or 6 hours a week? And that's how we started. So once you understand, then you know how to organize your things. And then the preferences. Of course, there are priorities, because when you come to the urban scenario, the problems are huge. You mean they are multidimensional, they are multi-level. If you go to a rural sector, usually all rural sector has one single problem. One single means there is a, either they have a water shortage or they are flood, but everybody is suffering from the same. In urban area, it's not so. There are various problems. Then there is a sand mining issue, there is an encroachment issue, n number of dumping issue which happens more into the urban sector. So all this, understanding these and trying to find a way out, was a challenge for us initially, but now probably gradually we know how we should address these problems one by one, how to prioritize basically, is some understanding we have learned through this journey.
Very important journey that you have tread through, and the way you are elaborating in terms of the challenges that
Yes.
unfolded. I think it's the right time to bring Mansi into the discussion. Mansi, maybe you can take us through deeper insights on the same.
Thank you, Vandana. Thank you so much. And thanks, Shailaja, for joining and accepting my request at such a short notice. Huh? And it is so lovely to hear your start of the journey. And I want to bring to the table here the discussion that you got, worried, or you were carried away by the building wastes.
Yes.
And this is where I think we both agree that building waste is the largest waste produced in the planet. Huh?
Very true.
So it's really, really concerning. And being architect myself, one of the reasons I am also not inclined to do architecture is because of the waste we generate, whether we build or whether we destroy. For example, yesterday, all the men and media were celebrating the demolition of the Twin Towers in Noida.
Yes.
And I was just wondering where will this waste go? And again, the studies also show that all the waste in this planet goes into the water.
Absolutely.
Whether it is lakes, rivers, sea, or ocean.
Yes.
So, when I came to know about you 2 years ago, I was so fascinated with the work that I learned from you in our last conversation 2 years ago, that we don't have to do big things, but even if we can move a little stone bit by bit with the community, that is very important.
True.
And since today we are discussing and celebrating more about women, I would like to take the conversation further on the angle of being women in the water profession. And that's exactly the study which we are trying to do by interviewing all greats like you.
Okay.
So my question to you now comes is, why we are celebrating this women leadership? I'm sure being women in the field, and also you have a double situation where you also, drifted from one field to other field,
Yes.
from building industry to environmental industry.
Yes.
I'm sure you have reckoned that there are, challenges of being women in the field.
Yes.
So I'm just curious, how do you really see that being women in the field? You also mentioned that women are more sensitive, and who else is going to do if not women? But
Right.
still, when you are working, I'm sure you also come across situations where you are either made to realize being a woman, or you realize yourself that you are a woman in this situation. Can you share some experience about it?
I think it's a good question in a way, Manasi, because when I started working into the interior designing sector also, I had realized that people used to look at me, because it was quite a long years ago when I started, where very few women were into that field. And standing on the site or getting the work done by the people who are there, whether it's a tiler or a carpenter, they could not accept the fact that a woman is telling them to do something. Now it has become very common. But at the same time, when you come into the environment sector, I think the situation is reversed, at least for me, what I have experienced. We have always in urban areas, whatever the maximum number of volunteers and those who are leading our verticals, different verticals, they are all women. Because the passion, the devotion and the commitment and consistency to do something uh, is something which you need to have into you, which the women have. because if they are not doing a job consistently over a period of time, the family life will not be as happy as what it should be. So
Yes.
that consistency and that the same responsibility, sense of responsibility if you have, and that's what we experienced. But at the same time, we also experienced what the other volunteers who are our colleagues, who are men, they actually supported us and to keep us in the forefront.
Very
So
good.
river for us, Jeevit Nadi became a face of woman. Means it could be Aditi or Mrunal or Shubha or me or anyone else. It's always a woman when Jeevit Nadi is in the forefront. So for me, actually, it was a sort of a shift of, situation from one thing to another. And then I started realizing, if you see the environment, the leadership, whatever has been done in the environment sector and the social reforms too, if you see, the leaders have always been women. You can to
Absolutely.
name Aruna Roy, who actually was a main who started RTI,
Yes.
right to
Medha
information.
Patkar ji, for
Medha
that matter.
Patkar ji, for that matter. Then Arundhati Roy. Means if
Yes.
you see in any field, and if you Irom Sharmila from Manipur,
Yes.
the longest fast
Satyagrahi.
satyagrahi,
Satyagrahi.
one can imagine. So these are the leaders in social reform, fields of social reform, as well as, even if you see environmental sector, right from the Chipko movement, if you
Yes.
see,
Gaura Devi.
Gaura Devi started Chipko movement. Then Sugata Kumari.
Ji. Yes.
Sugata Kumari ji ko I met her just before COVID, just 6 months before we lost her. The leader for Silent Valley. The means if
Yes.
you see all these movements which are there into the environment, then investigative journalism, I think her name is Prerna Singh. Prerna
Yes.
Singh Bindra.
Yeah.
So if you see, all these women are there. But my major observation, what I see, that when you come into the governance, there is hardly any leadership. Right from our freedom, we have been having only one environment minister probably, which
Yes.
is Jayanti
Oh, I
Natarajan.
teach that, huh? I'm always teaching that. Environment minister, water minister. We have not yet had an agricultural minister who is woman, huh? Where
Women,
half the population is
absolutely.
farmer.
And Vandana Shiva is there. This person like Vandana Shiva is in the lead governance sector. There are hardly any women, particularly in policy as well as implementation of it. We do not see any women, and I feel that is the biggest uh, lacking thing in our Indian scenario when it comes to
Very well
environment.
put. Very well put, because that was also actually my next question to you, because
Yeah,
you rightly mentioned, actually, right from Chipko movement, the registered environmental movement till date, as we see,
correct.
more and more women are engaged into the environmental activism, as well as doing things on the ground.
Yes,
Uh,
yes,
yet, if I focus in the water sector, and if I focus on the leadership, you rightly mentioned that there are good leaders as well. But if I bring the official accounting of leadership in women, especially when we are talking about leadership, as you rightly mentioned, in the decision making, policy making, and all, we find very few women. And surprisingly, Shailja, the global standard says 1 in 5 water professional is a woman, and in India we are still below that, even though you and people like you and me and others, like Aruna ma'am and Meda ma'am and all, because we are surrounded with our fraternity, we feel that there are more women leaders, but
correct,
the
correct.
statistics does not say that.
Does not say that.
That does
Yes,
not say that.
very
We
true.
have created a fraternity of women, and that is why we feel there are more women. But
Right,
at the
right,
national aggregate, that is not the scenario.
Very
So
true.
I'm just thinking, and I wish to understand from you, how is this possible if there are so many women? Huh? And why are women not recognized or acknowledged across? And why is it happening?
Uh, I feel there are two major reasons. Means
Okay.
I can just think about that.
Yes.
One is into the implementation part of it. See, execution, because women know better the issues, what exactly can happen. No one else can think about the issues regarding the water sector other than the women. But if you say into the implementation structure, there are hardly any women. That is one. Even if the policies are made for right to life and environmental policy structure, but I do not see uh, the ownership and control of the environmental resources which are given to the women as a policy. See, unless and until that ownership and control thing there, then you see the gender inequality. I
Yes.
strongly feel that is one of the reasons, because unless and until women are empowered for the environmental resources, given them the ownership and given them the right controls, I think they can do much more, but it is not happening. Though there are policies, there are certain number of policies in place, but few things are lacking, and that needs to be done.
Yeah, absolutely. But see, we keep talking about power and empowerment, and we often get into this dilemma, or rather, I will prefer to call it brutally as trap. Where are we waiting for this notion of giving empowerment? Who is going to give empowerment? Do we have to reclaim it? How it is going to happen? When we
No,
have such wonderful leaders, I think
yes,
we need 100 Vandana Shiva and 100 Arundhati Roy and 100 Veda
true.
Patka ji and 100 Shailaja.
Yes,
So,
right,
but
right.
then having them on board in the mainstream decisions is still not happening.
Happening.
Even in the current
Yes,
parliament, we
yes.
barely have a woman. It's not even
Yeah.
1% or 10% for that matter.
I think that is
How
partly,
can we change that?
I think that is a partly for on part of women also. Uh, I can tell you from my experience, when we
Yes.
started working on the ground, and the focus was working with the people or with community towards revival of the river. But during that, we forgot one of the things. पीएमसी के साथ नहीं काम करना है, वो लोग रिस्पॉन्ड नहीं करते हैं, इसके साथ नहीं काम करना है, सरकार के साथ कौन करेगा, इतना फॉलो अप करना पड़ता है, ये करना पड़ता है, वो करना पड़ता है. So there was always a sort of a withdrawal before you start working with
Yes.
them. But
I can
after,
relate with it,
yeah,
huh?
but after 3-4 years we started experiencing that in 2018 we realized that we have to start working with the governance, with the local authorities, at least. Unless and until we start doing that, that's not, forget about the higher authorities, state level, central level, I don't even
Local
want.
authorities, local
Local
neta.
लोकल नेता, उनके साथ, कॉर्पोरेटर्स के साथ काम करना चालू करो, गेटिंग कनेक्टेड विद देम. And we had the first event in 2018 when we had India River Day celebration, India River Week celebration, where we called one day the whole municipal corporations total staff, means top level officials, right from the commissioner to the all other officers from all our departments, we could take them, bring them to the river walk. Then they also came to visit the commissioner itself. Probably it happened in Pune's history for the first time that the Pune municipal commissioner visited our stretches to understand the issues and the problems, what exactly we are facing. From then, it was not going back. Then they had a flood mitigation committee, water resource department, we were part of it. So we worked for the Krishna basin flood mitigation. Then we have now working for upper Bhima basin flood mitigation, where we are focusing more on the Pune scenario, urban scenario, not Pune, but what should be the flood mitigation. But now we have started working with the departments, different departments, and in the governance. And now I realize that people have started coming forward, whether it's a MPCB or Divisional Commissioner's Office or PMRDA. There has been we have been able to get connected, because no officers are bad. There are very good officers into the system also. Only they need to have that confidence in you, that whatever they are looking for, are you able to give that? And now it has started happening, and happy to share that this is happening. So the push also has to come from you. Nobody is going to invite you.
No, very well said. That we have to also do that, and this empowerment game is very tricky.
Absolutely.
You have to position yourself in that way. And I just got curious, because you succeeded in bringing the local authorities to the river walk and all. And this is not part of the formal question which we frame for our guests. But still, in the Pune situation, because you have managed to engage with the local authorities, I'm still surprised that local authorities are still willing to go ahead with the riverfront development project, and that is itself is a big question. So how do you really see local activists and NGOs and thinkers and environmentalists can influence the local authorities? And especially when we know the chemistry in the local authority is still patriarchal, it is still man dominated. And especially now we also recognize, especially in your case in Pune, we are also realizing that there are many women activists, environmentalists, even male activists and environmentalists who are very influential. And still we are unable to really get a right picture of what the river should have or should be. And if are the citizens agreeing with the riverfront project in Pune?
No, in fact, that is our biggest challenge. And so far we have not been able to, get that trigger, because we also were shocked when in the local authorities, everybody knew that Jeevit Nadi is one of the organization which is working on river. They have a lot of knowledge base within the organization. They could be one very good support partners into this. And we are not even talking on the monetary terms. It is a social, it's a as a citizen, as a responsible citizen, how could we be part of that? But they literally tried to keep everything out of the scope. No one knew what was going on in between. Means it was, everything was hush hush, like
it's a secret governance.
It was hush hush. There was no transparency till the project was sanctioned, approved, and all sort of, even the standing committee also approved a 5,000 crore project in 2 minutes. It was approved and sanctioned.
Even money is very manly, I mean, I think, Shailaja, you and I agree to it, that money is very manly also. They first think in terms of money without thinking in terms of the complexity and impacts and everything. And you had said it beautifully in the beginning, I remember, when you were saying that we are thinking a lot. As women, we are thinking the impacts. As women, we are thinking the operationalization. In details, because I think that's the beauty of being a woman environmentalist, and especially women also, for that matter, that we believe God lies in details. We are more interested in details than the big figure of 5,000 crores.
See, we look at the impact, we look at the sufferers who are going to be the flood victims. We look at the people, means when we see the Kondwa Mundwa side downstream of Pune has a huge problem of water hyacinth. Now there are poor who are staying there, economically challenged people. At the same time, there are rich people who have 2 crores, 3 crores flat. But imagine the small kids are same everywhere with the water hyacinth and the mosquito menace. The 4-year, 5-year-old has been put every day, rest of the 8 months, except the monsoons. They are not able to play down below the building because of the mosquitoes. They are into the closed 4 walls. What is the future of these children? We can think of that. See,
I think
these are small.
children, women, safety, environment is all the process for women.
Yes.
Men will only think about money and infrastructure and
Yes.
development.
Yes.
Okay, I bring back the conversation to being woman and back to the track from today and back to being woman environmentalist. I just want to understand from you, how can we as women leaders can bring a difference in actually promoting more women leaders or making the presence of more women in the water sector so that they can be more included as well as they can be more influential. I mean, we are realizing if people like you cannot influence the local authorities, I'm just wondering, what can I do? What can Vandana do? You know?
Yes.
So
Yes.
just trying to understand from you, what can we do to really make women leaders? First of all, more women leaders bring into the sector. Second, then how can we make them more influential? What can we do? You and me, what can we do?
I think knowledge is the key.
Okay.
Because we lack tremendous education and knowledge about the water sector. There is I always call it as that whatever we learn through the school or college, we are still illiterate when it comes to the water sector.
But there is no water education happening in
There is no water education.
We're just learning from here and there.
Yes, yes. And that's where it lacks. See, unless until you know the thing, you cannot have a confidence to talk to the people. See, you have to get convinced to convince others. Unless and until you are convinced, how can you convince others? So how can the leaders be formed if we do not have that proper knowledge? So the knowledge is the key, and that's why Jeevit Nadi has created those verticals where through river walk we talk about the river ecosystem. For events by the river, we talk about the river system. When they come towards the stage for cleanup activities, we make them understand what is the riparian zone, what are the littoral zones, what are the wetlands. You know, it's just not picking up the waste and how the waste is coming from your own homes, and what is the importance or the need to segregate it at source. What is the need to treat the wastewater at source rather than having centralized. And you should not depend for everything and anything just on the government, because probably the government and politicians will have a totally different agenda than whatever your requirements. So you have to come forward. So this conviction can only come if you are educated enough.
But I guess water education is also required for men because they are doing it without education also.
Absolutely, the education needs to be for everyone. And you see the governance or politicians, no one has that environmental education. If you go to Bhutan, the parliament entry before you go through that course of the environment, you are not even allowed to enter the parliament in Bhutan. If it can happen in our neighboring country.
In our country, we have a different criteria. If you are educated, you are not allowed in the parliament.
Allowed in the parliament. That's true. Very true, very true, very true.
Because ideally, I would like to see Vandana Shiva to be our environment minister, Megha Patkar to be our water minister.
Absolutely, yes. You know? What about Sunita Narayan? She is
Sunita Narayan. She's there. She's
so,
right
so
there.
many. They are right there, and why can't they see these people?
No, but these people are there in many committees, so we bring back the conversation back to the women,
to the common people. And again, I think the need also has to. अगर पानी आपके दिल में है, तो you will start working towards it. Whatever I see around when I experience, water is unfortunately not on anyone's agenda.
That is a big problem. Water is women's problem.
Yes. It is on no one's agenda. Even women also, means when we talk about, we are talking about the awareness. उनको sympathy ऐसे नहीं कि नहीं होनी चाहिए. They will have sympathy towards pets, about saving the street dogs. They will have everything but water. You see,
I'm experiencing in this rural area. I'm telling the women, whoever I'm meeting, going to their house, and I'm seeing they're using chunk of soaps and detergent powders, and I'm telling them that we can reduce the consumption by 70%. They are looking at my face and saying, are you talking something nuts? I mean, they're
Crazy.
literally looking
Yes.
at me like that.
Yes.
No?
Yes.
So
Yes.
I completely agree with you on the sensitivity side of it. And
Yeah.
I'm very happy you brought that notion of education, because even for the last 5 years, I'm going to universities doors and really asking for water education, not so much to my luck, but at least I'm trying that water education is required from
Required.
bachelor's to
Yes.
even PhD for that matter.
Yeah.
But we
Yeah.
do not have many courses which are run on
No,
water.
we do not have.
That's a serious problem.
Yeah.
I mean, let
Maybe new
alone the problem
education.
of women leadership. I mean,
Now, maybe with new NEP, what we are trying to do, the new education policy has come. So the schools have some little bit of freedom. So what in Pune, what we are trying to do that if they are able to, certain schools have already agreed and we have started working together to create a theme, water as a theme for the whole year. So right from
yes.
the kindergarten till they pass out in the 10th, that theme is taken by the teachers of that standard for whatever. It could be in geography, it could be in general science, it could be in anything, history, whatever. So that is happening because of NEP. Probably the NEP may open some doors.
I'm sure, because as you are rightly mentioning, and we also realize that pedagogy of water is the urgent thing now if we want to
Yeah,
bring any change.
right.
That is almost bringing our conversation towards,
Yes.
closure, because it's a short
Okay.
and sweet conversations,
Okay.
which we do. I would like to know more about the women leadership aspect, and as you are also agreeing, and I also see around now when I'm working around Women for Water, that there are actually many women around it. So what do you think we should give a message to the local authorities, to the society, to the younger generation, to be more inclusive of women who are in the water sector,
Yes.
to accommodate them, to even support them in leadership, to even for that matter, just push them to get into the water sector? What are your messages for them?
Oh, I think women are empowered already.
Self, yes,
Yes,
I agree.
we do not need any
But
empowerment.
how to
All
make it more inclusive in the mainstream?
mainstream, I think we need to push it more. The way we have been managing our homes, it's time we start managing outside our homes also. So
Also,
that is the way we have to go. We need to be
so
more
that also we
pushy.
have to do, huh?
Nobody is going to give you that accommodation to start with. When the women's education started after freedom or during the process of freedom, what was there? The reforms were there, but nobody was ready to do that. Then people like Phule and Karve, means lot of
Yes.
people, or Roy, these people came forward. But why? Because they understood the importance of this. So it's the same thing. I think once you start having this education into the mainstream, it will not be related or restricted to the gender. People will start realizing, yes, this is one of the important. If this woman is taking it ahead, the same thing as we had it in experienced in Jeevit Nadi, that there are more women who are the faces of Jeevit Nadi than the men. It's the same thing can happen. And I am very hopeful, or I see a bright future for women in this
That's
field.
good. I mean, I think we are optimistic, and that is why
Yes,
we are continuing with our endeavors to
correct,
really
correct,
bring some change in the society, even if that
correct.
change is like a
Yes,
droplet.
yeah,
That's
true.
important. So,
Yes.
what will be your message to the younger generation, where we can relate very much that it is really already a big change when we started as a youth than what is today? What will be your message to them for inclusion of more women in the water sector?
I
How can
think
boys, how can girls be really more inclusive?
I think in one sentence, if it is now or never.
If you do it now or never.
It's not going to happen, because if you are drinking water, you better do it. Otherwise, it will never, means you are going to be starved from water, or your future generation is going to be the sufferers, whatever with the climate change and with so many things. Means if you read about China, it has already entered our houses. We can have similar drought, we can have similar heat summers or long summers, and what is going to happen about that? So unless and until we act now, we do not have any chance, neither we have time. So it's now or never.
Yeah, but I'm just curious to ask I mean, follow-up question on this.
Okay.
How do we link the water crisis to tell the society that women have to be on board?
Because they are the
Change
best
the
managers.
scenario.
Yes. Because I think here again, I would say that women have to come forward. The way every leadership has happened, even into the voluntary sector or the social sector or education sector, which started by the women, women have to come forward. But there has to be a unity and priority, which will take women to go on board. And that is the only way I see, because when we started it was the same thing. Means there are a lot of frustrating moments initially, but you have to keep on going and do the thing, and once you establish your importance, then there is no going back.
Very well put, because when I'm informally talking to my male friends, I keep saying that over hundreds of years you have destroyed the planet and the society so much. At least give us a chance for some decades.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm just saying
Yes.
this very jokingly to them.
Yes,
But
yes.
then I realized that why should I ask to give them chance? I mean, I have to just take it, you know.
Yes, absolutely. लोकल में जब भीड़ में बैठ के जगह कैसे बनाते हैं, हो जाती है ना.
Absolutely. Very well put. Very well put. Thank you so much, Shailaja, for such a candid conversation. I really appreciate your frankness, at the same time, the clarity in the way you put, apart from talking about building waste, talking about that there are actually more women, and really bringing the examples of all the greats, right from Gaura Devi to till date, and talking about Sunita Narayan.
Yes.
You also did touch about what can we do as women rather than taking empowerment. We have to just get into it. And at the same time, you are also very, very, clear about talking about bringing better education in the community.
Yes.
To bring that change. Thank you so much for this conversation, and I bring Vandana back here into our last bit of it to do the formal thank note. Over to you, Vandana.
Yeah, I think so lost in the conversation that I missed out on taking notes. So good, Mansi, that you have already summarized our discussion for the day. Thanks a lot for that. Thank you, Shailaja ji, for having taken time out and sharing your insights in journey, the plethora of knowledge that you have accumulated in a very short manner. We have been able to gain a lot from you. So thanks a lot. And we look forward to meeting our next guest on Monday, 5th of September, Durga Das ji. For other regular updates, I request everyone to follow the social media platforms. Everybody, please take care and see you all soon next week.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.